If a hungry vampire chick followed you back from the bar, or a psychopath was stalking you on a road trip, or you wound up as bait on a supernatural safari, or some other crazy stuff was going down, what would you do? What started off as a simple B&E turned up the devil's special spank bank, and now we're stuck watching horrid tales of human suffering while our degenerate friends finish tearing up the place. From hookups gone wrong to grotesque alien experiments, each tape is more shocking than the last, and if we don't get out of here soon, we might very well join the collection. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the horror stories in VHS. Gary is human garbage, and by the looks of it, so are all his friends. When they aren't out redecorating commercial properties, they spend their days terrorizing random women on the street as part of their foray into amateur filmmaking. And not only are these mutants dumb enough to record themselves carrying out these heinous acts, they're dumb enough to record themselves watching the footage while claiming responsibility for it. Yes, clearly, we're dealing with criminal masterminds on par with the likes of D.B. Cooper and Richard Kuklinski. And like any good band of lowlives, they eventually find themselves planning out the one big score that changes everything. According to the shadowy figure behind the request, all they have to do is steal a single VHS tape from an old man's house. And apparently, they'll know exactly which one it is as soon as they see it. How hard could that be, right? Well, for a competent team of home invaders, it might be a piece of cake. But these losers don't even bother casing the They just go in blind one night and assume they're not about to get collectively skull by some old SOG vet that's been praying for this moment since he retired. This is why a lot of the career scumbags out there will walk up and ring the doorbell a day or two in advance. If they hear cane corsos, or the homeowner comes out looking like this, they'll typically look elsewhere, or at the very least, wait until they're sure no one's home. Besides, had the entry team done a little legwork, they might have known ahead of time this place seems totally empty, which would be all I needed to turn around and write this off as a potential setup. I mean, think about it. You idiots literally post videos online of yourselves running around assaulting people in broad daylight. How far-fetched would it be for one of them to eventually hunt you down and lure you out to an abandoned house for a little payback? After all, the mystery client told Gary he liked their work, so their OPSEC clearly has room for improvement. How should I introduce today's sponsor? Wanna play with associations, nerds? Let's play. You see 3 words on the screen. Mobile Collective Champions. Combine them into one sentence to solve the riddle. Yes, it is the amazing Mobile Collective RPG with over 650 unique champions. Raid Shadow Legends. Every time we think about how to beat different monsters, and honestly, Raid has 3 top champions that, in my opinion, can defeat everyone with just their badass looks. The first is Judge, who attacks all enemies twice, but I think just one condemning glance from him will be enough. Then there's Sissia Flametongue. Just look at all that fire around her body. No creature would want to become a grilled chicken. And finally, there's Turvold. He literally shows that he will defeat anyone who says something unnecessary with his horns or just with his super cool weapon. Raid Call of the Arbiter is in full swing. To celebrate this limited series, Raid is adding new characters as playable champions in game, like Artak, a powerful orc warlord. Artak will be available for free to everyone. Simply log into Raid for 7 days between now and July 24. If you've watched episode 1 of Call of the Arbiter, you'll definitely want this character. If you haven't seen it yet, what are you waiting for? Log in to unlock Artak now. There's so much cool stuff happening in Raid. Why haven't you started playing yet? Click the link in the description or scan my QR code to get awesome bonuses. You'll score an epic champion named Talia from the Sacred Order faction, along with other useful stuff like energy refills, skill tomes, and XP boosters. I'll catch you on the battlefield. Ultimately, however, there's no sign of any off of vigilantes staging an ambush, but that doesn't mean there's no one else around. Well, we found the old man, although I'm guessing when the client last saw him, he was a little less dead. Of course, before we count him out completely, we should check for a pulse to make sure we don't suddenly find ourselves staring down the barrel of a 1911. As for the task at hand, I'd imagine it has to be one of those tapes lying all over the floor. I mean, nothing says you'll know it when you see it, like a wall of ancient TV sets. The good news is, we don't even have to choose. Let's just toss them all in a bag and sort it out later. But instead, the Brain Trust decides to needlessly overcomplicate things by forcing this halfwit to sit here and watch through every single one, while the others leave to go poking around the basement, as if any of them are going to say, "Steal me," in the opening credits. Oh, well, I guess now we can find out what left the old man scared stiff. Clint is kind of a pushover, which is why his forever frat boy friends bullying him into playing cameraman for tonight's festivities. You see, much like Team Gary, these degenerates are also looking to leave their mark on mankind's collective skin bin. Only their approach involves a little less sociopathy and a lot more tequila. Which brings us to some random dive, where Beavis and Butthead lay down their very best material in an effort to score with some local strange. However, between the three of them, it seems young Clint's got the best chance of closing the deal.
Hey, you wanna go meet some people over there?
Gentlemen, if a woman ever looks at you like that, I'd recommend moving very quickly in the opposite direction before she sticks you with an air tag. Nah, who am I kidding? We all know you'd totally go for it, which is why a significant portion of you will end up completely miserable within 3 to 5 years. Unfortunately for Clint, he's far too wasted to even comprehend the massive red flags flapping right in his face. And by the end of the night, the creepy girl and some random city bike pile in with the boys and their designated drunk for the treacherous journey back to their motel room. It's at this point things start to get weird. I mean, weirder. Clint's new best friend starts demonstrating some pretty bizarre behavior that even someone in his condition should find off-putting.
What are you, like a cat or something?
Something tells me it's way worse than that. I mean, it's not like anyone would assume she's really a demon from sent to seek out and devour weak and undisciplined men, but she definitely comes off as either crazy or out. Either way, it's a clear sign we should not proceed with the secret tickle time. Instead, I say we call this chick a cab and take a hike while Dane Cook and what's-her-name make God cry. Problem is, she doesn't seem to fully understand us, and aside from "I like you," she pretty much just repeats whatever we say like some kind of parrot or predator. However, before things can go sideways, the universe throws us a bone in the form of early-stage alcohol poisoning. Realizing his partner just clocked out for the night, D-bag number 1 does the admirable thing and immediately tags himself into the middle of Clint's fling like it's a tables match. Have fun, dude. Barney and I are gonna find the nearest burger and leave you to it. After all, no one wants to see their buddy on the job, especially when the other half takes au naturel to a whole new level. Bro, those are claws. Please, for the love of God, stop now before whatever this thing is starts raking out your living guts like a frickin' mountain lion. But of course, none of these turkeys apparently made it that far down, as evidenced by the fact D-bag number 2 is trying to make it a double stack. Yep, can't say I blame Clint for noping on out of there as quickly as possible, but I would have at least gotten out of earshot. Ugh. Thankfully, they won't even get that far, as suddenly our buddy bursts in wearing a nasty love bite, and not in a good way. Alright, time to grab a spray bottle and tell Katniss to hit the road. Sure, she might have a jet black tongue and grotesquely malformed feet, but she's still half our size. If all three of us pitch it, how hard could it be? To get rid of her, I mean.
Problem, I wasn't gonna.
What the?
Ooh, well, let us know what you want from White Castle. For real though, we need to leave the room, motel, and possibly the state right now while she has her hands full. Instead, these bozos run back to the bathroom, leaving the literal monster between them and their only exit. Just in case I need to explain this, the girl we brought back from the bar turned out to be a witch from Left 4 Dead, and absent Benelli M4, there is not a single thing in this room I'd bet my life on to take her out. Least of all, a god shower curtain rod. What the are you doing, dude? Did you not see that, freak? The toilet tank lid is a much better bet. But either way, it's just something we can use defensively to maybe have a chance at making it out the front door. About the only way you could possibly use that thing effectively is if you jabber through the eye socket. Trying to bonk her over the head isn't gonna accomplish jack with that flimsy piece. Yep, saw that coming. Good thing Clint had the sense to make a break for it before he could catch a castration like his homie back there. I'll definitely tell your story. All that's left to do now is hit the street level and find somewhere to post up with thick walls and a direct line to Wesley Snipes. But wouldn't you know it, wading through that massacre back in the room left our hero's feet on the slick side, and that last step is a real doozy. Yeesh. Ordinarily, I'd make a remark about the fall cutting his love life in half. But in this case, I'd be lying. You see, it turns out Monster Chick wasn't playing games when she said she likes him, and unlike his friends, she didn't mean with a side of fries. Look, dude, I know this is super disgusting and all, but you'd better channel every ounce of your acting abilities and pretend like you're enjoying yourself right now. I can't even begin to imagine how this freak show will handle rejection.
I'm sorry.
And you're well, maybe. While she's curled up in the corner feeling sorry for herself, we still have a chance to find cover. And while it might seem counterintuitive, I'd try heading back up the stairs and barricading myself in the room. We can clearly see she isn't in there right now, and we could use the landline to call for help in case our phone got lost or damaged in the scuffle. Naturally, we'll want to pile up the mattresses in front of the window so she can't just fly back in for a second date. And while we're assuming she doesn't possess the raw physical strength to simply tear her way through the walls, I still think this is a better option than hoping we find suitable shelter outside. Yes, there might be other people out there we can ask for help. But as we've already seen, this chick's not shy about getting down in front of an audience. Looks like she got her hooks in him after all. And with that, Clint is probably going to die. Or, at the very least, wish that he did die. In the end, none of our original bros made it out alive, and it's anyone's guess as to whether the passed out chick got nailed as well. That said, had Clint pieced out for the sake of decency once the clothes came off, he could have avoided this entire mess without even trying. And running back up to the room in the end probably would have gotten him further than making a mad dash across open ground. Alternatively, had he played his cards right, dude could have landed himself a flying vampire girlfriend, and despite her gruesome body count and sickening feet, that might not be the worst thing in the world. For those reasons, I think this one was beaten. Moral of the story, no bat chicks. Meanwhile, back in the old man's house, Gary and them found a huge cache of videos down in the basement, prompting them to finally use their brains and load them all up for future analysis. That said, they'd better do it quick, because it turns out the old man isn't the only thing haunting this dump. Well, that's unsettling. All it needs is that creepy breathing, and I'd say we're dealing with one of the regenerators from Resident Evil 4. However, being the charismatic leader that he is, Gary just assumes his henchman is seeing things and gaslights him back into submission where he belongs. Monsters or not, we really ought to speed things up. We've been in here for at least 20 minutes, and you never know if some nosy neighbor didn't see us coming in and called the cops. That said, this would probably go a lot faster if half our available manpower had their hands free instead of lugging around giant camcorders everywhere. Do you really need to film all your criminal activities? You realize you're not gonna be able to watch any of these from a jail cell, right? Of course, it would also help if we didn't leave someone upstairs watching lost tapes for literally no reason. And just to make things even worse, dude completely disappeared. Awesome. Yeah, don't even bother looking for him or letting the others know or anything. I'm sure he's totally fine dissolving in a vat of acid somewhere. Nah, instead, nameless goon number 2 decides to simply take his place in front of the screens and bring us into round 2. Sam and Stephanie are road tripping across the American Southwest. Obviously, being broke 20-somethings, they can't exactly afford to stay in 5-star accommodations the whole way. So the first leg of their trip ends at a dumpy roadside motel out in the middle of nowhere. After a long, hard day of going from restaurants to gift shops and back to restaurants, Sam breaks out the camcorder just in time to pester his beloved for a game of night crawlers. Cause I guess everyone in this thing is out trying to make a And just like our last group of filmmakers, the production gets rudely interrupted before they can get to the good part.
I can't even enjoy this. You're holding a camera.
That's a rather authoritative knock for this late at night. Someone better be dead. Nah, turns out it's just some random tweaker chick going door to door asking people for a ride tomorrow morning, or so they think. Kinda odd that we wouldn't hear her knocking on any other doors though. I'm sure the walls in this place are paper thin, so that would definitely carry between a couple rooms. It could be that we're the only ones with our lights on, but I don't know. It's hard to say. Not enough to call the cops, nor is it enough to whip out the OZ9 and DIY. All we can do is make a note of the encounter and move on with our lives. I'm sure she'll probably slink back into the shadows before sunrise anyway. We'll definitely want to make sure the door's locked though, and it's never a bad idea to brace it with something like a chair or one of those collapsible security bars, assuming we had the foresight to bring one. After all, locks just keep honest people honest, and you never know if she was just scouting us out so a few of her friends could swing by later. Of course, it doesn't matter what you put on the door if the threat is already inside. Monster. If only they had a reason to look over last night's footage. At least then, Sam could have dodged his awesome new nickname. In fact, the only indication they have that something might be wrong is the fact that $100 randomly went missing from his wallet. But even that's not enough to prompt a review. You know, since only a complete and utter moron would record themselves stealing something. Gary. It is enough, however, for him to immediately blame it on Stephanie. And I mean, who else is there? Still, if you're distrustful enough of someone to think they might have robbed you, you probably shouldn't be dating them, much less out on a 1,000+ mile road trip with them.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time you decided to treat yourself.
I'm sorry, what? Are you telling me she's done something like this before, and you're still with her? Dude, what the wrong with you? There are plenty of women out there who won't take your money, at least not behind your back. And besides, it's not like you're horrifically ugly or anything. Time to drop this chick off at the nearest Greyhound station and blow the rest of the travel budget in Vegas, where there's at least a chance you'll get something worthwhile out of it. Unfortunately, Sam decides to simply shake it off and carry on like nothing happened. I get it, dude has a big heart, but like they say, the bigger your heart, the easier it is to stick a knife in it. And sure enough, the phantom camera returns later that night to show us firsthand. Poor Potty Mouth. All he had to do was not stay with someone who already betrayed him, and he might have lived long enough to lose everything in a crypto scam. As we soon find out from the footage, because she was stupid enough to film literally everything, the killer was actually Stephanie's secret girlfriend. And now they're taking off in the dead man's car to probably spend the rest of their lives in prison, if I had to guess. I mean, what an absolutely ham-fisted approach to homicide. Obviously, Stephanie will be the primary suspect once the body is found, meaning that the car is only a day or so away from turning into rolling probable cause. Sure, they're probably making for the border, being that far south already, but fleeing to Mexico really isn't the move it once was, given the extradition laws. They'd have a far better chance of getting away with it if the killer had simply kicked in the door and hacked them up with a machete, so Stephanie could call it in as a robbery gone wrong. But even then, any text messages or phone records tied to her infidelity could still land her in an interview chair. Probably should have just broken up with him like a normal human being.
Did you erase it?
Looks like that's a negative. Sure wish I could see the look on her face when this eventually plays at her trial. In the end, Sam is dead as hell, and Stephanie will likely go on to star in a true crime podcast. Unfortunately, there's really no way he could have anticipated she'd do something like this. Sure, there might have been signs she would be willing to cheat on him or something, but nothing that would point to outright murder. Fact is, the only way Sam was getting out of this was if he had dumped Stephanie on the spot after noticing the missing money and left her to find her own way home. And given he didn't do it the first time, I just don't see that happening. Sad to say, but I think this one remains unbeaten. Moral of the story, never reward betrayal with forgiveness.
What the f is that?
I know, right? So, do you think you might have found the right one yet? Or what's up with that? Nah, just look at this moron. He's totally hooked. So much so, he didn't even notice Grandpa coming back from the dead. Can't wait to see what happens there. For now, we're jumping straight into tape number 3. Wendy has an axe to grind. Some time ago, her entire friend group was brutally massacred by an invisible, knife-wielding psychopath. And as crazy as that might sound, I can assure you, it's pretty much the best way I can describe it. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. Anyway, as the saying goes, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. And that'll be really easy to do once we kill this piece of. To that end, she's brought 3 of her backup friends out to this exact spot where it all went down. So here's hoping it all goes better than last time. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, none of these people look like much. How exactly are they supposed to help her combat the forces of evil? Well, it turns out they're only here because she needs live bait, which is why she never bothered mentioning anything about what happened. Although, she's not exactly shy about dropping the odd hint.
You're all gonna die up here.
Yep, nothing to read into there. Of course, if this really is the plan, I gotta wonder why she's going in seemingly unarmed. I mean, sure, it might be hard to explain to your sacrificial lambs why you brought a Tavor rifle out on your day hike, but she could have at the very least justified packing along a 10mm Glock as bear repellent, and they wouldn't even have to know about it. That said, why only bring a bunch of uninformed nobodies in the first place? Sure, it's not like her friends would believe her story without having experienced it themselves. But the internet has been used to draw all kinds of wackos out of their basements and into convention centers pretty much since it was created. So I would have at the very least tried finding a few other people who've seen something like this to maximize our chances of success. Either way, there's still the issue of how we go about spotting this freak show when he's supposed to be invisible. Well, quite conveniently, it turns out he can be seen through camera footage, which is why Wendy's dead set on having every moment of their adventure caught on film. However, knowing this, why for the love of God would you allow anyone but yourself to work the camera out here? You realize that even if one of your friends spots the they're not going to have any idea what they're looking at, and assuming he hasn't killed too many people to remember what Wendy looks like, he'll probably target her first, since she'd be the only one knowing what to expect. Were I in her position, unless there was some kind of extremely limiting circumstances that required immediate action, I would not have come back here without at least 4 other people who know exactly what we're dealing with, even if I had to Fulton extract them from a war zone and brainwash them into service like in Phantom Pain. Each of us would be carrying a concealed handgun and a digital camera on a hands-free, shoulder-mounted support rig, as well as a backpack containing the rest of our gear for when the fun begins. After all, we don't want to make our intentions too obvious, as it might keep the killer from coming out of hiding. Once we find the mark, assuming we couldn't just drop him on the spot, we'd unpack our hidden SDRs and start making his life incredibly difficult. All weapons would be fitted with laser aiming modules to allow for active aiming through the cameras, as rifle-mounted optics likely wouldn't be usable in this configuration. Bonus points if we could have a drone operator with us to keep tabs on him from above. Back in 2012, when this movie was made, the drone craze hadn't quite taken off yet, but we'd still be able to get our hands on some early Parrot AR drones that would get the job done. At that point, it's just a matter of shooting the until he dies, or at minimum, learns not to go around stabbing people without a license. The best part about this plan is that with multiple camera operators, we can establish 360 degrees of surveillance to avoid surprises, especially if there's more than one out here. Instead, Team Wendy sends their only camera off with the 2 dumbest group members to film the world's first TikTok dance. Luckily, fate intervenes.
Wait, what?
I love it. And of course, because Spanky has no idea what he's dealing with here, he only gets about 15 yards away before catching his frontal lobotomy. Yeah, great work, Wendy. What's the point of bringing bait when you're not even around to pounce on him when he takes it? Now, she has to go get the camera without getting hacked up herself. And that means walking blind right through the area where 2 of her friends just got killed. And yet, by some miracle, she manages to make it back to Joey in time to keep the trend alive and proposition him for some on-camera day play. You know, cause that won't make it difficult to react or anything. Like, God, if I didn't know better, I'd say she was deliberately feeding people to this maniac. But here she is explaining it herself.
I brought you back because I needed bait.
Bait, out of here. I think you need help.
clearly. But now that all her friends are dead, yet again, Wendy's left to her own devices, which apparently includes a whole bunch of traps she set up on her previous outing. Unfortunately for her, this is extremely stupid for 3 reasons. First off, it means you had to come out here by yourself to set all these up, which would have made you a perfect target. I mean, it's not like you could effectively keep watch through the viewfinder while digging a punji pit. Also, even if he didn't attack you at the time, he could have watched where you set each one and then disabled them all, knowing you'd try to come back and bait him in later with your dumb friends. And speaking of which, how could you be sure none of them would unwittingly stumble into these things while poking around in the woods? Seriously, you probably would have had better luck starting a forest fire and banking on smoke inhalation to do the deed. Oh, and then there's the fact that she neglected to bring along one of the most essential pieces of gear in any trapper's inventory, a small caliber pistol meant for dispatching the critters you catch. Although, in this case, I'd probably want a 500 Magnum. Either way, this would have let her dish out the coup de grace without getting into stabbing distance. And even if the trap itself is meant to be lethal, like this textbook spike board she rigged up, there's no way I'm letting him go without at least a few safety shots. After all, the blurry nature of his appearance makes it impossible to assess his injuries, assuming he's even injured in the first place. Holy sh**. Why? Like, why would you take your eyes off him? Better yet, why move up that close in the first place? Dude is invisible. It stands to reason he might need a little extra to shuffle off for good. In the end, no one made it out alive. However, had Wendy held off on going in until she could equip a team with cameras and appropriate weaponry, they could have nullified the creeper's main advantage by constantly keeping him in sight. And while we don't actually know if it's possible to put him down for good, this would have at least kept them from being ambushed and killed. For that reason, I think this one was speed. Moral of the story, what you can't see will kill you. Back in the house, Gary's finally ready to GTFO, but after discovering 2 of his goons seemingly vanished without a trace, he decides to do this smart thing and stick around even longer, while also splitting off from his last remaining henchmen. Not so they can cover more ground, mind you. No, obviously, someone needs to keep watching these tapes so we know which ones to steal. You know, despite the fact he's already established they can just take them all and watch them later. Well, whatever. Let's just get on to the next one. Emily is madly in love. Sadly, the object of her affection, her boyfriend, James, is currently studying medicine halfway across the country, but through a combination of frequent phone calls and webcams, they managed to make it work. The real problem is Emily's new apartment, or rather, her fellow tenants. According to her, the place is haunted, as evidenced by the footsteps she keeps hearing outside her door in the middle of the night. James, on the other hand, isn't convinced, but he's willing to support her despite his skepticism, even if it means routinely taking frantic phone calls whenever something goes bump in the night. This time, however, she seems to be dealing with more than phantom footsteps coming from the hallway. Someone or something is trying to open her bedroom door, and despite James's best efforts to stop her, Emily's bound and determined to see who it is, or in this case, is it? Yeah, not buying it. This strikes me as one of those cases where the ghost haunting someone's new house turns out to be some freakazoid squatting in the crawl space. If I'm Emily right now, I'm arming myself with whatever I can find and holding up inside the bedroom until the cops show up, especially after this happened.
Emily.
Was that a child? Well, at least it'll be easier to throw them out. That is, of course, provided James doesn't completely gaslight her into believing it was just the wind. Like, dude, she saw it herself. There's totally a kindergartner lurking in her apartment. Either that or some tiny small man trying to pass as one. If she were my girlfriend, I'd be flying out there immediately to help her figure out where they're getting in. You know, put some traps down. For real though, we need to take this seriously in case little Damien's got a mean streak, not to mention the risk of being held liable if he finds a way to hurt himself in there. I'd start by having a few friends or family members come out and help us tear the place apart in search of any compartments or crawl spaces someone could be hiding inside or otherwise using to gain entry. Once that's taken care of, we should call a locksmith and rekey the front door in case the management got lazy. If we're lucky, it might just be some brat running around with an old key he found somehow. That said, it also couldn't hurt to set up a few cameras around the apartment just in case there really is more to this than meets the eye. At the very least, footage of the little creep skulking around at night can prove we are not completely losing it. After all, it seems Emily has a long-standing reputation for wildly irrational behavior, and given how she handles the next episode, I'd say it's well-deserved. Just like before, she wakes James up in the middle of the night to report more strange noises, despite the fact there's literally nothing he can possibly do to help her from that far away. If anything, lugging around the laptop like that will only make it harder to defend yourself if things go sideways. Then again, she shouldn't even be going out to investigate in the first place. Scissors are at best a weapon of extreme desperation, and it's not like you have loved ones living with you that you need to try and protect. However, by far, her worst offense is the fact Little Miss Ghost Adventures doesn't even own a flashlight, so instead decides to use a camera flash to clear the whole house at a blazing 30 frames per minute, which goes about how you'd expect.
Emily!
Wow. She was lucky it was still the same twerp and not Buffalo Bill. That camera play was dumb as I mean, what's more likely? There's a ghost in your house or an actual burglar? Well, whatever. At least now we know definitively there was someone there, and not even James can deny it this time. As for how we handle the situation, nothing's changed. Although, I'd probably stay at a hotel for a couple days while we have the whole place bug bombed. If the intruder really is hiding inside our apartment, that'll definitely make him rethink his living arrangements. Besides, if we still see him at the hotel, it'd be a pretty good indication we're experiencing something supernatural. Alternatively, we could put trail cameras up by the refrigerator and pantry. Stowaway roommates commonly subsist on their host's food stores, so that'd probably be the best place to catch them in the act. Ultimately, Emily does pretty much nothing. According to her landlord, no children have ever lived in this building, much less died. And for some reason, that puts her at ease. You know, despite the fact this means it's even more likely she's seeing an actual physical person and not a ghost. All the same, it's clear the whole experience has really gotten under her skin.
What's that? What are you doing?
Felt that lump move in my arm today, so...
Jesus, just show the little Lurkatron that next time, and that'll be the end of it. And let's be real, we all know there's going to be a next time. After all, she hasn't done anything to change the situation whatsoever, and we all know what the definition of insanity is, right? Well, here's a new one. The definition of insanity is hearing something walking around your living room, and then calling your boyfriend who lives 1,000 miles away so he can guide you, see for me style, through the house because you're too scared to open your eyes. You heard me right. She wants to go make contact with the ghost, but at the same time, she doesn't want to actually see it because that might make her run away and hide. One of the most rational responses to actual danger. Gotta say, bro, not dropping everything to come help her is one thing, but enabling her obvious desire for self-destruction by going along with this makes you look like a total psychopath. If you really want to help her, tell her to shut the laptop, barricade herself in the room, and call the police. Or at the very least, hang up so she doesn't feel confident enough to actually go through with this. Fact is, we still have absolutely no idea what's going on, or whether it's still the same brat out there making all the noise right now. And even if it is, what if he's not alone?
Back to your left. Emily!
Alright, well, I definitely didn't see that coming, but just wait. It gets so much worse. Turns out, James was a bit closer to home than Emily realized, and judging by the way he goes blindly rooting around her ribcage without any gloves on, he's missed more than a few lessons at that medical school. Either that, or he's just getting burnt out. After all, this is far from the first time something like this has happened to her, nor is it the first time he's extracted an undeveloped spawn from inside her stomach. According to his conversation with the Lost Boys, the critter she was carrying was half human and half something else. And from the sound of it, they still have big plans for her fertile young body. In the end, James was able to make it look like Emily went berserk and threw herself in front of a moving car, thus explaining her many injuries, along with why she's been allegedly seeing things all this time. Sadly, without any other information that would allow her to doubt this narrative, I think it's safe to say poor Emily's torment is far from over. As for what she could have done to escape this situation, we're clearly dealing with forces beyond our comprehension, and while it's pretty clear what she was experiencing was actually real, there's no way she ever could have seen all this coming. Sucks to say, but I think this one remains unbeaten. Moral of the story: never do long distance, especially when your boyfriend works for aliens. Getting back to the burglary, Gary comes back to find both his friend and the old man are missing, which should be enough for him to hightail it out of there while he still has a chance. What, do you think your buddies carried Methuselah off for some kind of practical joke? Well, maybe. We have established they're both stupid idiots and huge pieces of so that kind of fatherless behavior is well within the realm of possibility. Of course, once he finds Zach's headless remains propped up against the wall, even a total degenerate like Gary knows it's time to GTFO. But much like young Clint before him, he can't quite make it down the stairs without completely busting his probably should have left the camcorders at home so you could hold both the flashlight and the handrail, huh? Well, sick 'em, Grandpa. Brutal. But I suppose that's what you get for touching a man's collection of corp. It's just too bad none of their deaths were actually caught on camera. It would have been a fitting twist of fate given their line of work. Then again, having presumably watched all these tapes already, the old man probably knew just how profoundly stupid it would be to record himself breaking the law. In the end, the entire Gary gang got their comeuppance. However, had they simply grabbed all the tapes and watched them later, like they literally said they should do at one point, they wouldn't have had to split up in the first place, and probably could have gotten in and out well before the old man woke up from his nap. For that reason, I think this one was beaten. Moral of the story: don't film yourself committing crimes. I shouldn't even have to say that. But wait, it's not over yet. Chad and the gang are out on the town. It's Halloween, and they're headed to a party. But being this is 1998, they don't have the luxury of our modern-day spyware machines to guide their every move. So actually, finding the place is no easy task, especially after a few stubbies. Anyway, through their combined efforts, they eventually find what they think is the place. Although, I honestly have no idea why that would be. Haven't you Nimrods ever been to a party before? There's no one outside smoking or peeing. No music, laughing, or audible speech of any kind. Zero visible Halloween decorations. And most egregious of all, no booze or snacks piled up on the kitchen counter. Bro, you don't even know the half of it. Ultimately, the boys just assume this must be some kind of haunted house motif, and while they're absolutely bang on with that assessment, it's not in the way they think. Problem is, they all pregame too hard to actually notice all the impractically spooky stuff popping up everywhere. Like, did you see that face in the china cabinet? What about the little girl on the stairs phasing out of existence? None of these things would be possible with the kind of stuff you'd find at a random house party in the late 90s. Probably not even one today. Eventually, they snoop their way upstairs, where we finally hear signs of life coming from the attic. However, upon scaling the hidden staircase towards the source of the commotion, they quickly realize this is not the party they were hoping to find.
We're leaving.
Yup. This is, in fact, the correct response to what we just witnessed. Even our cadre of inebriated 20-something is coherent enough to put that one together. But just as they're about to make their escape and go on living long lives of quiet desperation, they're stopped dead in their tracks by a startling realization. That's right, we forgot the beer. Nah, actually, they decide they have to go back and save the girl in the attic. And yeah, that. Look, I might be down if we didn't just watch two men get yoinked up into oblivion by an invisible demonic force, but we did. So again, that. Besides, we have no idea what was going on up there. Given it clearly involves matters beyond our understanding, inserting ourselves might as well make things worse. But of course, Team Beer Goggles can't quit while they're ahead. After all, she might have friends. So, despite whatever self-preservation instincts are still rattling around up there, they all head back upstairs to have it out with the exorcists. And while our guys clearly have the numbers advantage, whoever or whatever's pulling the strings up there still sees fit to tip the scales in their favor. Alright, we saved the girl. Yay for us. However, as we're all about to find out, that was the easy part. Well, that's not up to code. Oh, and just in case we weren't screwed enough already, the house is suddenly on fire now. Good thing we didn't leave when we had the chance, right? At this point, I'd normally say we need to break out these large kitchen windows before the place becomes fully involved. But god, I really wouldn't want to be halfway through when they decide to shrink up like the last ones. That said, smoke inhalation will kill us no matter what, so we'll just have to take that chance. One thing's for sure, I wouldn't be running down into the basement like Unabomber Bro suggests. We have no way of knowing whether there's an exit down there, and if this place collapses, there's pretty much zero chance of them pulling us out alive. However, by some divine intervention, it's basically a straight shot back to the surface. So, yeah, that's good. Okay, maybe I'm looking a gift horse in the mouth here, but don't you feel like that was a little too easy? I mean, the house was literally sucking up doorknobs to keep us contained, and yet that route was totally wide open, almost like it wanted us to escape. Well, whatever the case, we've made it outside and back to our vehicle. But now, we're faced with the same problem we had earlier. None of us have any idea where we are, so it's anyone's guess how to make it to a hospital. That said, the girl might be shaken up, but she's still conscious, and the wound on her chest seems to have stopped bleeding on its own. How about, instead of driving aimlessly and hoping G.I. Bill can sort out the map, we simply pull over at a nearby house and ask the owners to call us an ambulance? Besides, it's not like the house is chasing us or anything. At this rate, all we're likely to accomplish is getting into an accident, or worse.
What the? Where'd she go? What the?
You think that's bad? Just take a look at where you are. That crazy witch left you stranded on the train tracks. And now, all of a sudden, the doors won't open. Which probably means that blinding light barreling towards us will probably be the last thing we ever see. That is, unless we all act decisively right now. We need to each grab something pointed, like the corner of a seatbelt buckle, or the flat part of a seatbelt latch, and smash it into the center of our passenger windows as hard as we possibly can. If hit hard enough, the tempered glass should shatter and allow us to escape. Whereas the front and rear windshields are laminated to prevent that from happening. I'll admit, our chances are dog unless someone here EDCs a window punch, and even then I doubt everyone's making it out. But if you're ever trapped inside a car with little or no time to escape, such as in the event of a crash into water, getting out through a passenger window is the only way you're getting out alive. Unfortunately for our heroes, they're all too panic-stricken to pull it off, which is why this one ends with a bang. Well, that's one way to thank someone for saving your life, and with that, the witch is free to terrorize realtors for years to come. And all because these four dudes couldn't figure out how to use a map. Oh, and also because whoever was running that exorcism forgot to lock the doors. In the end, none of the good guys made it out, but had they taken the opportunity to flee the clearly supernatural situation when they had the chance, they probably would have been fine. That said, even after escaping with the girl, there's no reason they couldn't just swing around the block or flag down another vehicle and let the paramedics take care of her. And while the railroad situation was certainly dire, it was still survivable had they played their cards right. For these reasons, I think this one was beaten. Moral of the story: know when to mind your own business. And with that, we finally made it through each of the horror stories. 4 out of the 6 beaten ain't half bad in my opinion. If you liked how we did this video, don't forget to leave a like and let me know what you thought down in the comments. Depending on the reception, maybe, just maybe, I'll consider working on some of the sequels. Moral of the story, or stories: no good can come from watching a stranger's home movies. Don't forget to use my link or scan my QR code to get insane bonuses for new players with an epic champion.